Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be going over 5 free agents that I think the Washington Commanders should sign this offseason. I'll go over what impact these free agents would have on the Washington Commanders, how much money it would take to sign these guys, and how likely I think that Ron Rivera will end up signing these guys. So stay tuned to the end to find out which free agents that I think the Commanders should sign. Now, let's get right into the video. Also guys, comment down below which free agents you guys want the Washington Commanders to sign this offseason. So right now, it's been about a month after the draft, and I made a video a few weeks ago talking about some free agents, but you guys asked me to do it again, so here I am, and I'm doing that video right now. So Washington doesn't have a ton of cap space, about $3.5 million. I might do a separate video talking about that, but of course they will be getting some more cap space relief with the Landon Collins move becoming official on June 1st. That'll free up a bunch of cap space for them. Some of that they could use to sign some free agents. Some of that, of course, they will use hopefully to get a deal done with Terry McLaurin and maybe some other guys, Cole Holcomb. Maybe if they somehow want to get a deal done with Daron Payne, that Landon Collins money will help them do that for sure. So we'll see if they're able to do that. But, they still have some holes on this team for sure. On offense, they aren't amazing, but for the most part, I think they filled out the offense. The offensive line looks good. Maybe they could use another tackle in terms of depth, but they signed one, I believe, last week. And then a receiver, I think they're good there. Running back, they don't need anyone else. Tight end, they could maybe use a veteran, but that room is pretty full with Logan, Cole Turner, John Bates, Sammis Reyes. The room is pretty full there. So I think and quarterback, of course, is pretty full. So I think, the defensive side of the ball, the field is what they're going to need to improve a little bit more in terms of the holes that are there. Linebacker, the biggest one, but also slot cornerback and some depth on the defensive line. So let's first start off with the obvious ones, and that is linebacker. And I think one guy, and I'm trying to switch it up because I've been doing some of the same players a lot, and one guy I think that would be a solid idea to sign is AJ Klein. And I know a lot of people don't like don't like the idea because, of course, he's a former Carolina Panther, Buffalo Bill as well, but he's solid. He's a guy I would definitely not mind bringing in. Almost anyone, any linebacker that they bring in will be better than what we've had the last couple years at the middle linebacker position. He's not elite, but he is, solid. He can start for you. Definitely better than David Mayo. And even if they just want to play, mostly two linebackers with Cole Holcomb and Jamin Davis, having AJ Klein as your third linebacker is so much better than having David Mayo be your third linebacker. So that's why I think bringing in someone like AJ Klein would be a good idea. No, he is not amazing. He is solid, though. He is solid this past season for the Bills. Was a backup, played 15 games, started 4 of them, had 1 interception, got targeted 25 times, 16 completions, 64% completion percentage. So not great, not bad though. Again, linebackers usually allow higher completion percentage because they're usually covering shorter passes. But his pass rating allowed was very good, about 63.1, no touchdowns allowed. And his missed tackling percentage, not great, it's okay, 12.5%. But you look at kind of his sacks, he can get to the quarterback. 5 sacks in 2020, 2.5 the year before, and 2 sacks the year before. So definitely that is an underrated facet of his game. And I want to see his total tackles if it shows that. Had 30, so he didn't do a ton this year, 35 tackles. But he has in the past played for Carolina from 2013 to 2016. So of course has that connection to Ron Rivera. 8 forced fumbles in his career, 15.5 sacks. So, and he definitely did that with, Carolina. 2 there, 1 and 1 here. So, Ron Rivera would use him that way. A bunch of, tackles for loss. Had 4 this past season despite not playing a ton. So, is he an elite linebacker? No. I mean, there really aren't any even great linebackers available in free agency, but he's a solid player that would for sure be an upgrade over what we have now, and I would definitely be happy with him. Someone who I'd much rather have, though, would be Alexander Johnson, who is still a free agent And maybe there's something going on behind the scenes, because I think he's one of the better, even before free agency started. Like I said, this guy would be my number one free agent target. You look at some of these stats, third highest graded inside linebacker in 2019 and 2021 via PFF, can play middle linebacker for you, and is going to be, at this point, it's not even going to be 7 to 8 mil. It's probably going to be much cheaper than that, since we're in the end of May, almost into June right now. So I really, really like Alexander Johnson. Not going to talk about him too much, because I've talked about him a lot in the past, but like you look at his stats this past season, only played in 6 games and started all 6 of those games. Had 1 fumble recovery, had 2 sacks. But you look at the advanced stats. Let's go down a bit. You look at the advanced stats. Again, small sample size, but allowed a 39% completion percentage. I don't know why I did that. And a 70 pass rating with 1 touchdown allowed, and a missed tackling percentage of 0. Anything under 10 is pretty good. It's pretty good. And the last 3 years he's basically had that, with 5% in 2020 and 8% in 2019. And his coverage isn't his strong suit for sure. Like you look at 2019 and 2020, but the thing is, he doesn't allow a ton of touchdowns. That's a good thing. 1 touchdown over the last 3 years, and his pass rating allowed right here isn't even that bad. Like an 80 pass rating is well below league average. 88 is a little, I think that's right around where the average is for a quarterback. And you look at his, he's a great, though, run stuffer. So, like, that would help us out a ton. And he can get to the quarterback a little bit, too. You look at, 4.5 sacks over the last 3 years. And he had 2 sacks this past season, only playing in 6 games. So, definitely an underrated player. Only one of the downsides is he did play, and he's been playing in a 3-4 for a while. So, it would be a little bit of an adjustment. But I think he should be fine. Players switching, in and out of schemes all the time, so it might be a little bit of an adjustment for him, but I think he should be able to do it. Another small downside, 30 years old, but that, I don't think that's a big deal. Just bring him in and he should be fine, and I think he'd be, of course, our starting middle linebacker, and would be a very, very solid signing for the Washington Commanders. So if they signed him, I would be ecstatic. So next guy, I still think they need some help on the defensive side, on the D-line. I really do think they need some help, not as a starter, but as a depth piece, because you got Chase, you got Montez, and I like Efe Obada. He can play inside and outside, primarily on the outside. I think you need to add one more guy, and Jerry Hughes, and I think you should add a veteran, a guy that's been in the league 6-7+ years. Jerry Hughes is that guy. And look at the numbers, not amazing. He only had 2 sacks last year, but he did more than just that. If you look at the advanced numbers, he was pretty solid for sure. I think PFF had him ranked like in the 70s, which is pretty good. It's very good for PFF. Their rankings are a little bit lower. And 2020 had 4.5 sacks. 2019 4.5 sacks as well. Also had an interception. I wish they would show the forced fumbles. I think they show it down here. He had 2 forced fumbles. He's had 2 forced fumbles in each of the last 2 years. And 3 in 2018. Played for the Buffalo Bills. That Ron and them like getting players not only from the Panthers, but from the Buffalo Bills as well. And he's still a free agent. I would try to go ahead and get him because, of course, if Chase and Montez, one of those guys, goes down, he can come in and help you. But of course, even if they don't get hurt, you want to have that veteran leader on that D-line room, especially on the edges, that we didn't have last year. I think that's partly why Chase and Montez struggled a little bit compared to what they did in 2020 when they had Ryan Kerrigan, just a guy that can help them, with their approach in terms of, what pass rush moves they're going to do. I think that was something that they were missing last year. And yeah, signing someone like Jerry Hughes, in my opinion, would be a very, very solid signing. So hopefully they can make something like that happen, because I think they can get him for very cheap, and I think he would be down to sign here because he doesn't really have that many options, and he could be the third guy coming off the edge. And the thing is, right behind Chase and Montez, and he also has chemistry with Efe Obada, who signed from the Bills this year as well. So he's a guy I would try to bring in as well. Next guy on this list is Chris Harris. I think we need another cornerback. Not an outside corner, a slot cornerback. So, because Kendall Fuller has played better on the outside the last couple years, and William Jackson, of course, is an outside corner. So, any of those, if we get someone like Chris Harris, you can put him in the slot, Danny Johnson as your backup slot guy, and then William Jackson and Kendall Fuller as your outside guys. That would be, the ideal situation right there. And Chris Harris has been getting roasted by a lot of the Chargers fans for being terrible, and he hasn't been as good as he was in Denver, in his prime, but he hasn't been terrible. Like this past year, played in 14 games, allowed a 60% completion percentage, had also allowed 3 touchdowns and a 93 pass rating. So, not amazing, but not terrible. I think he is better than Danny Johnson. Missed tackling percentage, that is something that is bad for sure. But, he is definitely would be an upgrade over Danny Johnson, and he would be a veteran leader in the locker room. Also played for Jack Del Rio as well, so that's another bonus. He has, we'll know the scheme a little bit, and, he's going to know what to expect, what to do for Jack Del Rio, so that is another bonus. I just think we need to add someone else in that cornerback room. The depth is not great. Benjamin St-Juste already struggled with injuries last year. Can't necessarily rely on him. William Jackson also struggled with injuries this past year, in the past as well. So that is just something that I think is an underrated need for the Commanders, and Chris Harris is one of the better slot options. I think Bryce Callahan would have been a great option, but I think the Chargers actually signed him. So, Chris Harris, you can get him for relatively cheap, and it'll be like a 1-year deal. So now moving on to our next player. Okay, so the next player is defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson. And, I would rather go ahead and sign someone like Akeem Hicks from the Chicago Bears, but I've put him on this list a bunch of times in the past, so I want to change it up a little bit. But just to let you guys know, he would be my preferred option. He's been really solid at defensive tackle, can also line up on the edge as a lot of these guys can. He is a very solid player, still on the market, and he might want to come as a starter though, and obviously he wouldn't start over Payne and Allen, and then Phidarian Mathis would also be in the mix, but he's an option I definitely think that the Commanders should try to at least pursue. And then, Landon Collins is another option, not at D tackle obviously, but he's another free agent I would sign, or I would, definitely consider. Just, again, want to switch it up, and also let's let them see what they think of Percy Butler first. And if they like Percy Butler and they think he can play the Buffalo nickel, or if they think he can play free safety, and that allows him to do more things at the safety position, then maybe they don't need Landon Collins. But if Percy Butler doesn't look like he's totally ready yet, then okay, go ahead and bring in Landon Collins for relatively cheap. You look at Sheldon Richardson, he's bounced around the league the last few years, but he's been solid. This past year, 2.5 sacks. Let's see if he had any forced fumbles. Had 1 forced fumble. Year before had 5 sacks. Year before that basically had 5 sacks as well. Was great with the Jets, his first few years. I think he won Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2013 and played really well, and then had some, off the field issues and moved on to Seattle. But really has, he's played really well. Not really well, but played pretty well the last few years, and has, continue to get more and more contracts. So he would be an option where he knows he's not going to go in as a starter, but as a third or fourth option, gives you some insurance if one of those guys goes down, and if Phidarian Mathis just isn't ready. If he isn't ready, well, you got Sheldon Richardson that at least can come in and play okay for you. Can give you solid pass rush snaps, and as a solid run stuffer as well. He's also versatile. So if you don't sign another edge rusher, he can also go off the edge as well. I was watching a video the other day, and it's kind of going over Sheldon Richardson and his Defensive Rookie of the Year. In his first 2 years in the league, he actually played like 50% on the inside and 50% on the outside. So he's a versatile player, and I would not mind the Washington Commanders going ahead and signing him. So let me know what you guys think about these free agent targets that I gave out. Again, there was other guys I preferred more, but again, just want to switch it up a little bit. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys did enjoy, please hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video. And go ahead and follow the Twitter. First link in the description, guys. Peace.